Okay, thank you for coming. This is the July 2022 famous poetry group with Glenn Lyvers and the Prolific Press Poets. Thank you everybody for coming. I am going to do something a little different today. I'm going to start by reading a poem by a wonderful poet named Robert Moreland, two actually, and he emailed those in saying that he would like to have those read today. And I'm going to honor that because we all love and respect Robert. So the first poem is Dog Days, first appearing in the Goose River Anthology, and it looks like some um, interesting formatting here. A large turtle crosses a tree-shaded asphalt highway. He defies death for a goal. Faith-born dreams he cannot see. Cool pond waits for him beyond. A young squirrel stretches full length down a bird feeder, reaching for a meal, his eyes half closed, seeds savored. He's exposed in all his glory. A midnight black grackle plucks one yellow kernel from under a lawn feeder. With a triumphant squawk, he flies, his golden eyes sparkling. 8 tiny fluff balls. Mother raccoon leads the way, bandits masks in place, feasting on old dog food. Weaned at last, July begins. And his second poem, titled Shimmer, first appeared in Toward the Light, the Journal of Reflective Word and Image. Again, this is poetry by Robert Moreland. Shimmer. Waves whisper soft on the evening breeze as the sturgeon moon climbs to his sky throne. Alabaster glimmers ice inland sea while easterly zephyrs stir the great lake. Past midnight's twilight, but hours before dawn, peace in solitude, the moonlit wave line. Enraptured hearts bask in the same pure light, holding that delicate instant promised. In finest white linen you curtsy, and I in black tuxedoed finery bow. Strass rich as Merlot envelops starlit night dreams, and we waltz effortless, gliding mere magic inches above the waves. All the while the rotund moon looks on and smiles. Thank you, Robert, for those poems. And we're going to move on to John McMullen.
Okay, I'm going to read the first poem they ever had published after I won a contest in a magazine. And it was published in Inwood, Indiana, about about 14 books ago. And so I was grabbed by the throat then. And it's called Cashing a Check. I just saw this wonderful line in a column in a motorcycle magazine. The mind writes checks that the body can't cash. The vision that many from the old neighborhood have of me is short and thin, with a Pepsi in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Others will remember me as taller and thin, hitting a jumper from the corner or throwing a no-look pass to a cutter. Others will picture me at the end of the bar in a Broadstone, open pack of Pall-Malls and a half-finished beer in a bar. Don Gibson's I Can't Stop Loving You on a jukebox. Pat, one more when you got a chance. Age has taken the jumper. Diabetes has taken the Pepsi. Common sense has taken the cigarette and booze. I'm older and wiser and hopefully more tolerant. I'm satisfied with my life, but to just be able once more to fake the man guarding me and go up in the air and get nothing but net. To be able once more to cash that check. And then that has some mention of my old neighborhood. The most recent poem that I just wrote also started in the old neighborhood. Country and Me. I had two friends, Bob Cummings and Marty Brick, who liked country music. They've been listening to Don Larkin Barkin on WAAT 970 AM on the radio. Why? Guys with a twang singing about broken hearts and life on a ranch. Who cared? Hardly the interest of a 16-year-old New York City boy. But one cold December 1955 day, sitting in the lobby of a large apartment house, known to the Christian kids, and even to one of our Jewish friends as a Jewish house, we were planning a party and talking about me bringing records, all the while listening to music on a portable radio. Suddenly, the DJ on WINS 1010, the rock and roll station in New York, announcing a recording that I'd heard the night before, said, "And now a new voice in country music, Johnny Cash." What? Country music on Winds and this guy is country? I liked that song last night and I really liked it. And I Walked the Line came on and I still liked it and even loved it. And 67 years later, I still do. The late and great Cash brought me to the original Sun Records $1 Million Quartet. Cash, Orbison, Carl Perkins, and the incomparable Jerry Lee Lewis. And that was all before Elvis showed up at Sun. I was hooked on the music, but not on the fans, although I married one. I was at Madison Square Garden one night to watch a Cash performance, and Johnny introduced celebrities in the audience. The poet of our generation, Bob Dylan, polite applause. Country music's balladeer, Marty Robbins, wild earth-shaking applause and screaming. Hey, come on, Marty's a good singer, but this crowd values him over Dylan. So while I'm clocked out on the fans, I'm all in on some of the talent and a value that it brought to me. And interest in Cash and Sun comrades expanded to include the greatest singer-songwriter of my generation, my estimation, Chris Christopherson, and the velvet-toned voice of Willie Nelson. What, you didn't know Christopherson was a great writer, even a poet? Well, he wrote Sunday Morning Coming Down, me and Bobby McGee for the good times, and Julie and others. A writing teacher friend of mine always says, show it, don't tell it. The following lines from Sunday Morning Coming Down. The beer I had for breakfast tasted good, so I had another for dessert, and found my cleanest dirty shirt. Paints a perfect picture of the narrator. Don't look down on country. This is literature, baby. Thank you for putting up with me.
That was great. You know, I love those poems where people just sort of punch in all of those iconic names, and then suddenly you're importing all of this feeling that we have about all these different artists. And I totally agree with you. Christopherson is just wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. That was nice. Okay, so we're going to go with Gloria Caviglia, followed by Doug Van Hooser. Gloria?
Okay, this is a traditional haiku. And high summer comes with its deep greens giving pause as time lingers still. And I will read it again. And high summer comes with its deep greens giving pause as time lingers still. This next one is short. It's called Ski Splash. He threw the rope like a lasso and I caught it, wanting so much to please him, more so to prove to myself that I could. Weightless, water underneath my feet. Is this what a skipping stone must feel? Leaving a wake behind me and the sparkling blue horizon ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. That's nice. Good compression in those works, too. Not always easy to pull that off, and you did it masterfully. Okay, Doug Van Hooser, and then we'll follow with Debbie Walker last. Doug?
Okay. The first poem I'm going to read is entitled Blue. I missed last month's reading, and so I'm going to read it today. Blue. The neighbor's dog, Blue, keeps barking, so I decide to keep trying, to be relentless as the dog's loneliness, to try again like the fungus that each year reappears on the oak stump. It finds reason in dead wood. The ceaseless despair of the dog shuts off like a faucet and becomes an unbridled torrent of leaping, wagging joy at the sound of a mumbling muffler tied under a faded blue Toyota dinged with dozens of small wounds. I would like to be so pleased, be greeted by my ambition, consummate my desire, eliminate the whine of repeated attempts, and shake the hand of success, even if it looks beyond me and continues down the line of all its guests. The second poem I'm going to read appeared in Poetry Quarterly in 2015. 24 cents. To you, the past is hollow, a husk shrouding a cornless cob, a photo wrinkled by 5 wallets, t-shirts surrendered to the back of the drawer. My 24 cents worth? A yellowed letter in a ripped envelope. My cursive was legible as my tongue. Now the words look stung by a whip. If you want to see me, I have to print. I only hear emotion. Whatever else is said piles and drifts and only shifts in the wind's deep breath. You sigh in your sleep, rolled on your back, your legs stretched flat, muscles shudder, contract. A dream with your toes pointed, a ballerina dance when you leaped and twirled from inside to out.
Yes. Yes, that was beautiful. Hey, everyone. I have 2 short ones. The first is a haiku. Pen strikes a loose chord. Egret scampers shore alone. Lines on shifting sand. And again, pen strikes a loose chord. Egret scampers shore alone. Lines on shifting sand. And the second one is called Little Spirit. Ancient people, blessed and cursed, vast explosion, atom burst. Earth unguarded kept you whole. Diamond burst from depths of coal. Sacred mountain, son of blood. Women floating in them through the flood. Passion holy, clang of death. All conspire to give you breath.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Right. I like the pace also that you did that in. It was really engaging, drew me in. Sometimes it feels like a performance, like you really just draw people into your work by the cadence of it and so forth. It's really nice. Mary Gunn. Then Lynette Esposito will be on deck. Mary, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Hello, Glenn, and hello to all the other readers. I've got 2 short poems today. The first one is a 6-line poem called Dublin on the Liffey, and it's written as 3 couplets. Dublin on the Liffey. The Liffey, no longer sniffy, ambles through our capital city. It once inspired Jack B. Yeats to paint the Liffey swim. Nowadays, it's a genial host to cruise liners and tall ships. And my second one is a 575 Senru, and it's sort of related to the first one. It goes like this. Crowds on Beckett Bridge. Tall ships farewell to Dublin. A parade of sail. I'll read that one again. Crowds on Beckett Bridge. Tall ships farewell to Dublin. A parade of sail. Both of those have been published. The first one, Dublin on the Liffey, was first published in a journal called Whispers. And in a roundabout way, it has a connection to Prolific Press, because the editor of Whispers was a woman called Karen O'Leary, who was a former poet laureate of North Dakota. And I've seen her work in Tree Line Poetry. So that's the connection there to
Oh,
Paper Press.
great.
And she may have been published in other journals, but I did spot one of her poems in Tree Line Poetry some time ago. And the second one there, the Senru, that was published in a local creative writing anthology.
Neat.
So
Yeah, we
that's
definitely
been,
all have to support those local projects, don't we? That's how we encourage
well, I
them.
just felt like reading something about Dublin today. I was trying to find something summary, and the first one, Dublin on the Liffey, came to mind. That was one that was written in response to a prompt I got in from, I think it was from the editor of Whispers. And then the second one, when I dug out the first one, the second one came to mind. So that's how they came about today.
Okay, well, thank you, Mary Gunn. That was really nice. And representing the Ireland, which is just lovely. Okay, we're going to go with Lynette Esposito, but before I do, I want to address a quick question I got in the chat from John. John, I just kind of write people's names down as they come in. So, but if you can't stay for some reason until the end, you can send me a note and I will just, I'll honor that and get you right up at the top, okay? Okay, Lynette.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Lynette Esposito from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And because it's been so blazing hot, I wrote some poems on winter. Sometimes in winter, the aching snowflakes cling like cold butterflies to the black fingers of dark, barren trees, reaching upward to the storm-driven sky with no recourse, but to bear the onslaught of the storm and the wind's winter teeth. And the second one, I guess I should have read it first because it says preparing for winter. When the pumpkin leaves develop frog eye and the ghosts have left their dew, when frost has prepared the ground for winter, I think of you. You winter in my heart still as a cold beat that beckons long dead memories from their chilly sleep. And though my flesh is warm, my spirit is frozen in time when your lips were so hot, sealed with mine. Now the frost has come for me. I shiver from the chill. My autumn bones are freezing as winter approaches me.
Thank you for that. Oh, you're just such a pleasure. Every time you just deliver. So wonderful.
Thanks.
I'm so blessed to have this such a good group here. Just let me call out a few names here so people understand the order they're in there and they can get prepared. So the next four poets will be James Nicola, Edward Ahern, Michael Flanagan, Alexander Coates in that order. James Nicola, Edward Ahern, Michael Flanagan, Alexander Coates. And for those who tune in to our YouTubes, be sure to look these people up online when you get their names and support these writers, poets. You can. Everybody here is so humble. Of course, people want you to go find their work, buy their book, and so forth. But you know what? It's so meaningful just to get a nice note that says you appreciated the work or something. You don't have to. You don't have to do much. Just participate in some way. And so there's that. Okay, James, go ahead.
Wonderful. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Wonderful. Did the share screen work?
No.
All right, I'll press that one again and maybe it'll come up. Share screen. Share, or I have to click share again. Then I got to go back to the document. Here it is. Now you see it. This is the poem about Ireland, and it was about taking a walk in southeastern corner of Ireland between County Carlow and going to the south toward Newbarrow, which is where the Kennedys were from. And Graignamock is a location in Mount Lester and Blackstara Mountains and whatnot. So this is in honor of Mary. I try to bring an Irish poem every now and then. And it was published in 2018 in a thing called, well, I wrote it at the bottom, you'll see. I forget now. Oh, River Poets Journal, I remember, right,
Oh,
in
yeah,
2018.
okay.
And I just checked, it's easy to find in a PDF if you want to look at it again. But here's Exhilaration. The days of late May linger. It was late. I calculated still some leagues to go, then thought to pick my pace up to a gate. My great, great, great grandparents used to know this road. They might have walked it with a cart or on a Sunday long before it crossed their minds to leave the townland farm and start anew, leaving behind two babes as lost. I'd seen the records in the church and knew all of the children's names and godparents. The books went back to 1782 and listed all my great uncles and aunts. Exhilaration, though, trumped the fatigue with giddiness, which made me see the rains that drenched me suddenly on the last league as a refreshment. Giddiness explains much, but not the equally sudden light that pierced through the cloud wreaths around Blackstair and Mount Lester, beneath which, till the blight, my family had tilled the soil somewhere. When you go to Ireland, to your homeland, for want of any better place to go, because your cousins want to understand their roots and you would also like to know, because it's interesting, because it's there, you're greeted by the makings of your soul, the dead, which seem to pop up everywhere to help you home. They're almost visible. And this one just got picked up overnight. Last night when I was, YouTube down the rabbit hole having internet, so I'm watching not bad. Speaking of Miracle on 34th Street, a John Payne movie that was on. So I go, oh my God. Anyway, so I thought I'd share it with you because why not? Oh, and it's a little bit in response to all those people who are wise that say to avoid words like love, soul, skies, trees, and all that stuff. But I go, let's try this. Defining soul. Let's say soul is the part of you not here, the part of you that's everywhere and always, beyond at least, or that soul is the part of you that's not your person. Or this, when I think of you, the air is warm and velvet, the mattress plush, and I wake up refreshed and know I've dreamt of you. When I don't dream of you, I sleep on stone. So you do, even when not here. The part of you that does that makes a difference in your absence, and you do that a lot. Let's call that soul. Do souls have hands? If so, your two lace mine. Do souls have hearts? If so, our two make one. And feet? Ours flex and tickle 24/7. Lungs? Yes. And breaths merge just as when we kissed the first time. And I learned that there was soul. And that's going to be in a thing called Field Guide. I always appreciate it when y'all mention where your recent stuff has been published, and then I look them up and send them something, and sometimes I've been published there. So this is a somewhat new journal called Field Guide. Thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Oh, thank you so much. That was
Gotta-
nice. And
Gotta do unshare now.
yes, you have to do the unshare part.
How do I get there? How do I get there? Change the view. Oh, stop share. It's up at the top. Okay.
There you go. Really, really nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Please don't be offended if I mute you guys. It's only because I want to keep the background noise from interfering with anybody. That was really nice. We're going to move on to Edward Ahern. Somebody asked me, Penny asked me just now about my new serialized book. I'm going to answer that question right now. Making a little direct message to everybody in the group. And let's see here. Please bear with me. A little self-promotion, I suppose, and I hope it doesn't come across as vain, but somebody asked me, and that's wonderful. I'm going to quickly share my screen. If you go to my website, it's glenlyvers.com, https://glenlyvers.com. Right up at the top, there's a link, the Mercy, the Love Story. And for those who, I know some of you have read this book and you're following the things. So recently, the protagonist Cole has cut the ropes from one of the aliens. So there's aliens in this book, and it turned into a really interesting chapter. But I don't want to hog the spotlight, so let's just move on. Edward Ahern, please.
Okay. These two poems were written in the last week or so, so clearly not published yet. The first one, not to be taken too seriously, is called Coagulated Milks. A pound of Velveeta, considered negatively nutritious, but also viewed as tasty, costs $4.07. The Serbian cheese Pule, made entirely from Balkan donkey milk, costs $600 a pound. The value shopper might prefer buying moose cheese at $500 a pound. For the ostentatious, white Stilton Gold, made with gold leaf, costs $400 a pound. The coagulation gourmet has thousands of cheese choices, and some, like Velveeta, that can't legally be called cheese. And the second one is shorter and is the more recent of the two. It's called Yinning the Yang. Excess is sometimes not enough. Abstinence is sometimes excessive. Moderation is often overrated. Restraint is often self-punishing. The moods of our moments are violated at our peril.
Very nice. Thank you, Ed. Can you unshare?
Sure.
That was great. It can't be called cheese. My wife had to show me that on the label. Sometimes it says cheese food or cheese stuff, or so there's some language there that makes it not cheese.
Cheese product. Yeah, cheese product.
Yeah, that's right, James. That's what it is. It's cheese product. Oh my goodness. All right, Michael Flanagan and then Alexandra Coates. Michael? Nope, you have to unmute yourself, sir.
I must be Irish week. I came up with an Irish one myself.
Nice.
And I have two today. They're Tonkas, which are just five-line versions of 3 lines. And getting it open here. Okay. Beside the tree planted the day she arrived, Sister Gerald smiles, a snap to send home, showing her safe in America. When I was going to parochial school, the sisters were Sisters of Mercy, and they're from Dublin. The other one, another short one, a Tonka. Our first neighbor, shy in cape and fedora, passing with never a word, but we heard Bach deep into the night, the man I've become. They're both published somewhere, but I'm not sure where.
That's great. There's somewhere. Okay, excellent. We're going to go with Alexander Coates, and then we're going to move on to James Bethel. So, Alexander, please.
I have a published poem. It's published, actually, you know the poem, it's The Guzzle. And this is the issue, it's the Dawn Shredder. They look for sort of more mystical poems. It's published by Indigo Dreams Publishing. Seeker's Guzzle. Walk along the drifting, swelling river and climb until it gradually grows narrower inland. Climb onwards with your wounded friend and trust and laugh Behind the falls to cross go, hand in hand, climb. Past stretching trees and heavy boughs, touching needles, moss, onto rocks and boulders, hugged in sand. Climb. In weakness, breathless, lightheaded hesitance, floating faint upwards, higher, where colors turn pale and bland, climb. Through clouds of freezing fog to find sun's blinding plane. There, dear secret to heal and understand, climb. And then I have a short one called Just Breathe. At the threshold of death, I hear your calming breath. Just breathe. What was this life? What was its meaning? Let your soul be joyful. Take delight. At the threshold of birth, here, Mother Earth, I hear your calming breath. Just breathe. It's the middle of night. Sleep to let your soul take flight while you are dreaming. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really nice. That poem just makes you feel like you're sort of falling into more layers as she goes on. Suddenly you're so deeply invested, and then all of a sudden it's over. That's nice. Thank you. Okay, James Bethel, followed by Linda. Go ahead, James.
I've got two, both of them in response to other poets. This first one is remembering Robert Louis Stevenson, and it's entitled Sailor and Hunter. Dawn, gull and deep night wood owl cry into the same ear. This Pisces yang and yin reports to Gemini as the moon sets. One soul, born on the cusp of Aries, a sailor and a hunter recognized by Beatrice, with one foot in the ocean and the other, hey, nani nani, on dry land. One a wanderer, in search he never knew for what, never comforted by an imposed hearth. The other always eager for the winter's warm fire, unnerved by the chimney's moaning winds, searching for the absent twin, bound by birth, estranged by the songs of different wings, one by urn turn and frigate, the other by the noonday eagle shrill and that dark night owl, both returning tonight to the hearth, the fire, and tomorrow the tomb, the sailor from the sea, and from the hill, the hunter home. This one I found in my wanderings from an 8th century Chinese poet by the name of Po Chu Yi. His poem was entitled Madly Singing in the Mountains, and so mine is entitled After Madly Singing in the Mountains by Po Chu Yi. Well, there is no one among any ever of us that has not a special failing. And my failing consists in writing verse and insisting on its freedom. I have broken away from the 1,000 ties of life, but this infirmity still remains behind, but attached. And yet each time I look at a landscape, each time I meet a loved friend, there is a poem, and I am glad, as though a God has crossed my path. Mostly I live alone and walk at sunrise. Sometimes my mad singing startles the trees and the creatures come to see or flee from my noise. Fearing to become a laughingstock, I seem to have chosen a place rarely visited. This silence calls to me of our Mary Oliver, when she said, wherever I am, the world comes after me, offering me its busyness. Well, that may be why now I understand
why the old poets of China went so far and high into the mountains and then crept into the pale mist. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So nice. Okay, Linda Embler, Peter Uremko, Bob Whalen. Linda.
Hello, everyone. Edward, I have to admit, might as well admit it to everybody, some melted Velveeta and a couple of chips do me just fine.
I got another note like that.
Want to get out there, honesty at all. Okay, this first one called That Smell of Weakness. It's not a very nice poem, but it's something I wrote based on something. You considered yourself a complex sort, lover, boring, fighter, foolish, philosopher, banal. You entered every room with a peacock's preen, your eyes as sharp as a lance, calculating rough estimates of who to exploit. Your voice of silk with an undertone of harsh grinding, piercing all others' musings. You felt so assured of a no-fuss future, thought yourself immune to the bite of the rope's burn, invisible to the repercussions of that handy spite you so freely flung. You rode your 5 stars within those rooms, but those stars were hitched to a wagon with bent wheels. You never rethought your plans, left your conscience with your childhood toys. Did no one ever teach you all things in moderation, or did you just refuse to learn? All who were there acknowledged that smell of weakness that was at your very essence, the miasma of your corrupted thoughts, because you believed you could do it completely alone. And the honesty of it all is that none of us would have ever cared to join you. So nanny, nanny, boo, boo to you. Okay, the second one is called Reliquary, and it's going to be published in Arial Chart in August. Penitential hymns composed within this haven's design, memories intricately carved, exact details honored, deities of reminiscence venerated, like creamy marble with sweeping curves, the hallowed human brain, a living organism, a shrine keeping remembrances, a sacred relic, a holy keepsake, time's passage of a life meant to be contained therein. Thank you.
Thank you. Time's passage of a time. Life's passage of a time meant to be contained therein. Those are the kind of words that kind of haunt you after the things are over. You're thinking about these poems. I don't know if anybody else comes back and re-watches, but I do. I usually watch these things a couple of times or more. All right, Peter, and then we'll go to Bob Whalen and Patrice Wilson. Peter Uremko.
I'd like to share 2 poems, new poems that I wrote. First one is called Frankie. His true name was Frank. We called him Frankie, though, so as not to confuse him with his father, who also was Frank. Frankie was a skinny, pimply kid, a lot like his dad, whose face was pocked from his own bad teen complexion. 1967, and the war was boiling, with the number of guys drafted doubling each month per Johnson's order, Frankie too. They called it selective service, but they plucked him like you would a chicken's feathers, mindlessly from his first measly job right out of high school. But Frankie was okay with it because his dad ran the Democratic Club in a Republican town, and it was Johnson's war after all. They gave Frankie a big send-off because he might not ever return, although they didn't say things like that back then. And you guessed it, he didn't, like 55,000 other guys. Frankie was a good kid, a nice guy who for some reason stayed with me all the decades since 67. And I thought of him today when I took my new pair of Crocs from the box and saw they were made in Vietnam. And the other one's called Now I Lay Me. I sleep with a rosary under the pillow. If they discover me dead in the morning, they'll say, wasn't he the Holy One? Some sleep with a pistol under the pillow out of fear. Out of fear, I sleep with my beads. Either way, salvation. Thanks.
Thank you. That first piece was so touching. It's really interesting how we can suddenly be thrust into some kind of memory, and we remember these small moments. Um, for me, I remember this little. I was really little, like 7 or 8, and I um, did not treat this other little boy very well, and I have all this guilt, like all these years later, that I was not a nice person to him, and we all have these things, don't we? Little things that we carry. All right, Bob Whalen, Patrice Wilson, and then Leonard Lund.
Hi, all. Those, I was touched by the Frankie poem too. It was close to my coming of age. And we're doing Irish poems tonight, so forgive my mispronunciation of Irish words. Shawnee. Fate's sundown is slowly approaching. Eve's shadow will merge into nightfall. The universe begins its encroaching, with dreamscapes becoming like recall. There Shawnee and Brehons inhabit the lands, Fili and mystics prophesize. Dark caverns are painted by fumbling hands, where philosophers seek with dark eyes. The province of vision belongs to the bard whose knowledge is beyond most folks' ken. That gift is also a journey most hard, blurring the difference between now and then. Time is the tunnel that travels through space, where mummers and shaman are guides. Masks and persona reveal one's true face, and lamps search the void where truth hides. The soul is a deep and perpetual sea that is lifted aloft by some wind, which skims across the surface of what seems to be, then to reign over the peaks of the mind. It starts in a place where it thinks it belongs. Poets exalt it while singing its name, and lands in a place where they sing different songs, not knowing the sea is the same. These insights are puddles reflecting the sky, professing to hold its expanse, a moment's observance by a singular I, an awareness existing by chance. And here's one that I just recently wrote. It's called Etymology. I'm trying to be a bit more contemporary. It seems like one day in spring, overnight, while peepers are singing and mating, buds emerge. Then shortly after, over another night, buds spread into a canopy of leaves, shading tadpoles and vernal pools. The refinished table by my window in the upstairs room can't do anything like that. I mean, if you cut a piece of it and examine it under a scanning, tunneling electron microscope, you can see atoms. If you cut a piece of tree, you see the same atoms, but these bud in the spring. What leaves a tree when it becomes a table? I've been thinking about this for some time. but I'd rather think less and feel more. Thinking is more like doing. It shields one from experience. Feeling is being, a vulnerable immediacy, unfolding like a growing leaf catching light and air. The philosopher Democritus introduced the idea of the atom. The etymology derives from the Greek word atemnein, which means not cut. 3,000 years later, Benning and Rohrer received a Nobel Prize for seeing them. Such is the velocity of thought. Millennia have passed and we're still thinking about the same thing. Experience must be the indivisible energy that causes a tree to bloom and allows us to feel now.
That's really nice. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Feeling is being, yeah, Alexander, I caught that too. That was nice. Okay, we're going to go with Patrice Wilson, Leonard Lund, and then on to Penny. And just a quick note, next month, the suggested theme is Australia. So not necessary, but I will also include that in the invitation that I send out after today's. Okay, so all the way from beautiful Hawaii, Patrice Wilson. Patrice, are you still here?
Hello, everybody. Hello.
There you are.
I just unmuted. So, yeah, I'm working on a collection, a short collection of poems based in Hawaii, and it's going to be called Hawaii Mixed Tides. This is from that collection. I'm still working on it. Oh, I'm about to spill my drink. Let me see. This is called, oh dear. I thought it was going to be here. Sorry.
Oh, we're all friends here. Take your time. It's okay.
Okay. Oh dear. Oh yeah, Honolulu summer. It's short. Honolulu summer. Yes. Lovely green leaf trees shower yellow pink petals that flutter down in hot Kona winds across simmering city streets. But Diamond Head, a dry and thirsty brown, reaches toward the sun as if to beg for water from a cloudless sky, blue, alluring, and empty. Let's see. The next one is on a lighter note, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this group. It's don't remember what years they were popular, but every once in a while I enjoy hearing them. The Average White Band on a Summer Evening, 2009. In this place, this time of year, you get thirsty, so you put on some music and it shakes you up and fro, to and forth, back and down like a bartender, making a frothy daiquiri for someone already drunk. And you break a sweat like condensed drops on the outside of the glass shaker. And man, it tastes real good. Picking up the pieces of sweet, white, cold ice and placing them with a thin straw into your watering mouth like stars on your tongue, the ones that shook loose and fell into your body as you were jiving away in your living room in low light after nightfall, dancing alone in the universe. And that one was published, I think, in my full-length collection, Hues of Darkness, Hues of Light. which is from Elexio Publishing. And that was back in 2013. I'm going to try to get some other things out there as well.
Great. Well,
Thank you for listening.
love to hear the older work too. Everybody, this is a good place for that. We're going to move on to Leonard Lund, then Penny and Sean O'Connor. So, Leonard.
Greetings, everybody. These pieces are all from the various annual fundraisers I've done over the last 10 years for St. Baldrick's and the chapbooks that come out of that. I don't color well inside the lines, I guess. These are going to be about cars and variations on world's ending. Counting song. Following my headlights in the night, 2. Singing with the songs between commercials, 3. The bisected lanes of this highway, 4. States left to cross, 5. And me, without you by my side. At the very best of times, never more than 1. 57 T-Bird, Highway 36. The car burns on the side of the road. Smoke a million shades of gray joins henna and bottle blonde yellow flames, making faces in the autumn afternoon. Once polished powder blue, the paint is blistered and smoked to some different color entirely. A small crowd barely watches the end. It's now of a certain kind with the pocked, spotted, wrinkled, mottled skin of an old man once noticed, but now too many miles, no longer collectible. And last, salvation is a concrete noun. On a dirt gray mid-March morning, with LA all around my vision rising in its sprawl down to the sea, I saw the horsemen in the mirror, saw 4 horsemen come with terror, cursing and fuming, gesticulating, stuck in the nowhere going traffic, backed up on the 405. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, Penny Michalski, then Sean O'Connor, and Emily Strauss. Penny?
Okay. Hi, everyone.
If I murdered your last name, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, you said it just fine.
Thank you.
I have 2. First one is in 3-line poetry. Clouds race across sapphire skies, breezes deliver lilacs, memories hitchhike. I'll read it again. Clouds race across sapphire skies, breezes deliver lilacs, memories hitchhike. And then the second one was published in Ageless Authors. And it's called All That Matters. Here I am at the end with all that matters. A latchkey kid who'd face down the strap if supper wasn't cooking, if the water for coffee wasn't boiling, as she walked through the door, if the dishes weren't done, if homework wasn't done, if the neighbors found out. She has heart palpitations, Mother would tell the doctor. Such a nervous child, he'd say, oblivious of his complicity. Children of immigrants whose only desire was to be free, to live as they pleased, were now empowered to echo the cruelty of the life they left behind to their kitchens and bedrooms. The lesson was not to become them, but to stay a paper doll that bends to authority, of teachers, of bosses, of spouses, kept unaware of her own beating heart. But when they came to their end, all that mattered was still with them, making supper, making coffee, wiping a chin, and the neighbors always knew. Thank you.
Thank you. You remember those days when people cared about what the neighbors thought?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like that's the way it is anymore. It used to be a
Nope.
big deal.
Yes.
Be a really big deal. Did anybody else have this experience? Your mother went out and she would buy a few really nice things, like a nice cake or something, and set it aside, and that would be for company. right? Remember? People would just drop in because there were no cell phones or anything. So you always had to have something that was just for company. That was a different time. Sean O'Connor, Emily Strauss, Michael Watterson is the next setup. Sean?
Hi, Glenn. It's been really nice to hear so many people refer to Ireland so warmly. I feel almost guilty for sitting here in Tipperary in Ireland here. I have two Haibun to read, and slightly unusually, in a sense, both of them are, apart from the haiku, absolutely absolutely true. They're completely true stories, and I've tried to recount them as accurately as I can from the people who were there. So the first is called Open and Closed. Open and Closed. The woman is kneeling in prayer at the back of the old church when she looks up and sees her adult son disappear. He has been standing in front of a side altar when he suddenly drops out of sight. She hears what sounds like rocks tumbling down a hillside, but this makes no sense, for nothing is moving. As the sound fades away, a cloud of incense, or what looks like incense, billows up where her son has been standing. It takes 2 days to retrieve his body. Turns out an ancient well was covered over where the medieval church had been built. The man, the woman's son, was directly above it when he stood before the side altar, as thousands had done before. Over hundreds of years, the ground above the well had eroded till it took just his body weight for the floor slabs to give away. Funeral cortege, stopping for a cat to pass, kitten in its mouth. Second piece, which is also true, and I've slightly altered the facts of the individuals concerned, just as I felt obliged to. And this is also a high one, opening and closing with a haiku. And this is called Home. The yard's still dark, ice in the water butt. It's sudden crack. The couple argue about how they would like their house renovated. They stay up late, then decide to leave the discussion on hold till the weekend. It works. After a little uneasiness, they fall asleep. Something wakes them in the dead of night, just before dawn. The sound of missiles blowing up the airport. They listen to talk of war on the radio until it's time to go to work. She a dentist, him a quantity surveyor. That evening they return for what is to be their last night in their home. Limp in snow, a discarded rag doll, its dark eyes staring. Thank you.
Thank you. Powerful stuff. I used to see a lot more of that, actually, the haiku at the beginning and the ends of poems. You know, the history of haiku is they started out like these little introductions, right? And so powerful. So much said there in so few words. Those could have been standalone, but you just intermixed them so well. Thank you for that. Emily Strauss, Michael Watterson, Therese Birch. Emily.
Hello, everybody. I've been hiding here. I'm in very hot desert, Oregon, where I am. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Oh, wait a minute. Do it like this. Yeah, share screen. I think I can do it. I'll start with that. And I have two of them. Okay. Oh, the light. Oh, the light, the sun still shining on reddish Jeffrey pine trunks high on the slope, the late orange tinting needles, branches, a golden mantled ground squirrel standing at dusk. The late light of summer extends until I sleep in shadows, eyes covered. And in the morning, early, before coffee and toast, the light leaks past the shades, shines again in my eyes, uncovered, brightens the fence, the kitchen, the cats waiting for food, the purple iris, and I rise eager for the sun bath to rise over the peak. Wash even the weeds clear for a moment. Another long day descending toward the summer solstice, when the afternoons are full of heat and glaring white rays. I am filled with light enough to endure the dark winter ahead. And I have another one. Let's see if I can do this again. This one. Okay. Oh, never mind the yellow part in there. Never mind. Men's bellies. Mostly middle-aged and up. They think they've earned it, or no one will notice. Like a melon, a Santa pillow, a rotund ball like a child playing dress up with one pushed up his shirt. See, I'm like Uncle Louis. A round, solid gut hewn from years of beer on the third base line at the minor league park. Like other men who wear their trousers suspended under the belly, a knoll of flesh they can't see around. They fumble familiarly with an invisible zipper, a warm-skinned mound they've learned to smile at like a woman cradles her fetus. This addition to their frames, a badge of time spent at the table, club, or church supper.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Michael Watterson, Therese Birch, and then Heather Grant. Michael.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenn. Hi, everybody. So 30 years after getting an MFA in poetry, my first poetry collection is finally coming out. It's titled Cosmology of Heaven and Hell. It's being published by the Poetry Box, a little boutique press out of Portland, Oregon.
Congratulations. Be sure you stop by our Facebook page when this video gets posted and leave a link there for us.
I will do just that. Thank you. So I'd like to read two poems from the collection. A little bit of background. I grew up in Pittsburgh, PA. Pittsburgh was once described in its heyday as hell with the lid off. A couple of things. Most people know Andrew Carnegie. Fewer people know Henry Clay Frick. Frick was kind of Carnegie's hatchet man. He made his fortune in coke. Coke is being refined coal, basically, pure carbon that's used to fuel hearts, steel hearts. And towards the end of their association, they had a falling out. And the last few years of their lives, towards the end, Carnegie tried to make up a little bit with Frick. And supposedly Frick's reply to Carnegie's overture was, tell Mr. Carnegie, we will meet again in hell, which is where we're both going. So the first poem is titled Hell with the Lid Off. Reflux castaways from garden shore to golden coast, stack-spewed offspring in exile, recall your infernal glory, Steel City. In their pick and shovel back and bicep dreams, dark barges flow, Monongahela mud, freighted with visions. Locomotives, skyscrapers, battleships, downriver to the confluence of immigrant forebears, forging the future from raw earth. They remember your fork-banked cathedrals of canonical tomes, Cretaceous bones and Giverny oils, stamped with the Scotsman's Midas moniker, King Coke's adamantine aesthetic. Sonic fathers who worship learning and old masters with the same ruthless reverence they prostrated before capital. Gone those men of steel, Carnegie, the weaver's immigrant son, whose bootstrap ambition preached a gospel of wealth. Frick, the aesthete warrior who, bleeding from an anarchist's assault, sat penning terms of a loan as his wounds were stitched, as impervious to bullet and blade as to the rancor of rank and file, who at the end, the story goes, refused the chairman's olive branch with the same steel will, declaiming they would meet again in hell, where, according to at least one visitor, their luxuriance began. The second, thank you. The second is about fellow Pittsburgher Andy Warhol. Andy was a poster child for poor self-image. When asked by an interviewer about his background once, Andy replied, "I am from nowhere. Ode on Andy Nowhere. Sphinx without a riddle, as like to vanish after the Vitus dance years with Millhunkies in the Berg, or lustering Bonwit windows on Mad Ave, as storming bastions of fine art, leading our charging hordes of commerce. You figured wholesale knockoffs would do, framed by themselves like mirrored mirrors, and we agreed, entranced by dollar bills floating in fluorescence like water lilies, our own deeply superficial adoration of screen icons and genuine fake originals like you. Art was just another label you pirated, Figment, especially once a woe manifesto drilled a hole in the half of you there, coloring ever after. You pictured immortality hidden in plain sight on the supermarket shelf, and we bought it. Thanks.
Thank you. There's like 2,500 Carnegie libraries in the U.S., and there's one not very far from me in a town called Wheeler, and it is really interesting. When I went in there to see that he had this idea for his libraries. It was like heart, health, and mind, or something like that, and so they would make it into like a fitness area for your body, and then you would Sunday would come around, or I don't know what day it was. I imagine Sunday, right? And they would bring in all the chairs, and it would become a church. And then after that, it would be the library. People could go all week and borrow books from the libraries. And I visited one, and you could totally tell how the architecture of the building was totally set up for those utilities, and it was really neat to imagine the legacy of somebody. I don't know, maybe he did some terrible things in his life, but to leave behind 2,500 libraries, and that's pretty cool in my mind. All right, Therese, then Heather Grant and John Riley.
Oh, thank you. I have two poems. This poem was written in response to a New York Times article about the cutoffs between younger and middle-aged children and their elder parents. And it's a phenomenon that's growing. And there's a great deal being written by younger and middle-aged about their lives, the imperfections of family members and so forth. But there's not much being written by the elders about their experience. So I thought I would attempt to begin to address that. And this is called Apology for My Imperfections, Confessions of a Single Mother. If I could, I would cover you with love and heal your wounds so that we might share again somehow. Do you want me to now? It is the choir invisible who prays for us in song, yet for just how long can I go on believing in the grace that overcomes the feeling of disgrace and shame? No one is to blame. Am I wrong? Is it only the death of me that finally will set you free beyond this place to see my face, beyond this space into eternity? Will you abandon me? It is not within my power, and I pray somehow my prayer will reach the breach. I will not doubt, and yes, I will go there, and I need not know what it's about. Although I do not know, I can be kind, leaving all behind to begin over and over and over with you. Do you doubt that this is true? Forgive yourself, and then my turn may come. These broken pieces will solidify and mend, and you will see how I was overcome, the me that's me and my capacity. I did my best and gave all that I had and did not save the rest. And though I could no longer see where to garner energy, I relied on God alone, for all you had was me. Grace was the key that engendered loyalty, and loyalty can set us free to grow into our very self-embracing humanity. That is my prayer, and Saint Therese, who scatters roses everywhere, is with you. I am content knowing the love of the divine is there at every turn, and then when you feel alone and feel you need your mother, you will discover love again. So that's one. And this is in response to my spiritual mentors, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, very interesting mystic, paleontologist, priest, who questions all the time about what the essence is of life. So Teilhard's question about essence. Hey, could someone tell me why I'm here now amidst the galaxy? I was told to love, serve, and be happy above with God, who said, when two or more are gathered in my name, I'm there instead. So why am I here? It's all a blur. And what occurs, though, there's something about love that endures and knowledge and language disappear, which makes it clear somehow. Being here is how we grow sinew by sinew, and our fear can be transformed by love. It's hand in glove when we relate at the gate that opens wide all the mysteries inside. And while directions are not clear, we can hear them if we listen. We shimmer and we glisten and radiate a newer form of energy that sets us free to be ourselves. And then, glory be, we now have gained all, and it is all set in motion with desire to relate and co-create. I must confess I was a mess for following someone else's story. Although I learned, I was concerned that it wasn't mine, but still I tried and tried and tried again. Well, I used to be in pieces. My head had no real way to say just who I am. And if I may, maybe if someone knew how to teach us, it could increase our everyday experience. We wouldn't have to freelance in trying to make it all work, our heads, our bodies, and the erotic urge. We could compose ourselves and come to know how love congeals and helps us grow into differentiating now. That, my friend, is the full realization of a co-creation that makes us one only when we become our essential self. To love all begins in trial and error, and risking the terrors that accompany risk. The grief and loss of our first fall had left us shattered, and so we scattered, defining ourselves by difference. There is a suspicion now that we are alone, and we must have it all through competition, and not atone and do our very best along with all the rest to love and live in service. Our faulty misperception or perversion of that love that sustains us can be blamed for my confusion. You see, in the noosphere, there are hints of this fusion we require to rewire us into communion. It all began here, and love is very near, and love is always erotic. Love is not only exotic or romantic or the love of family or the frantic search to pair. It isn't there. Love is everywhere. So why I am here cannot be clear, and it is a risk to be transformed, so be forewarned. Grieve what we are and what we know, for this must go, and only shows the endless evolution of the cosmos. Now, not to be verbose, it is you and me who will set us free, and if we listen and act, we'll make our way back. We will love one another, and we won't need the cover of a disinterested bystander. Yes, this plan for me and our galaxy is so much grander than I can see. Meaning is woven throughout our suffering, though love would have it otherwise, not desiring our grief, our tears, our sighs. Then appears the light that breaks through in our nights of despair, showing signs of hope everywhere. At times this means the light hides deep inside where it allures. We forsake our weeping and dig deep, and love reassures. This is the way to patch you all back together where mind, body, and emotions meet, and speak all together in one voice. Rejoice. We're on our way with no division, nor the prison of despair, for hope is planted everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. So well done, Therese. You know, there are the hard rhymes and then the slant rhymes, they sort of start creating these moments of almost tension where you need a release from that, and then you just release from it. And it's beautiful. You definitely show your mastery of this of form and function in the language and the cadence is just so good. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Heather Grant, then John Riley. If there's anyone here who didn't read yet, and you are not Heather Grant or John Riley, please send me a note in the chat window. Okay, Heather. Is Heather still there? You are. Heather, you have to unmute yourself.
All right, we'll start again. I'm going to read two poems today. The first one is called Among Sequoias. When our family first walked into sequoias, we felt like we were entering holy ground. We walk respectfully in a pantheon of giant, magnanimous trees. Their vigor runs up hundreds of feet straight into sky. Sequoias, present to our history, live for thousands of years, then simply fall. I rest my hands on dark red bark, feet thick, dense, layered like skin. Press ear to trunk, listen for the pulse, then lean full body, arms extended. My feet resting on pine needles and silky red silk. A wellspring flows up and down my body as the sun falls, skirting the forest floor. Most of the poems that I write are about nature because nature really nurtures me. And this is another poem called Encounter, but encounter with a smaller being rather than a large sequoia. Encounter. Geranium scent rises, coral petals shower the warm brick. Startled, a hummingbird flits inches from my face. The dark blue circle, head circled in gold, wings whirring. He darts closer, hovering. We hold our gaze, move closer, merging in the starry night. Thank you very much, everyone.
Very nice. John Riley.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm down here in hot, drippy North Carolina, so it's good to be in.
Hi, John.
All right.
John, this is your first time with us, is that right?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes.
Welcome. We're really glad to have you. Thanks for coming
Great
today.
to be here. All right, I've been writing for the last while. I've been writing 100-word prose poems. I have a book coming out in a few months from Exile Books. It'll be 100 of the 100 prose poems. But it was really fun to be able to break out of that, write write some more poems. These haven't even been sent out yet, so they're pretty new. And one of them, the first one's about a younger boy, and the other one's about a not so young guy. And the first one's called Bog Pond. He knew the things that moved the fastest were the first to go. So he waited each night as dark slipped forward like the slowest law handed down from the highest peak. Refused to tremble as dark oozed over the horizon, hung there like an end of him. A boy who searched each day for nothing and was sure to never find it, under the sun or under the moon, where he learned to keep himself calm by sharpening flint heads on a fist-sized granite he wouldn't trade for a god or a gun. Long after the sun left, the wind blew down low, before rising to lull over the thick black settle, lying heavy across the bog pond, luring the agile groundhogs and woodchucks down the dank hill to where the creek gave up the ghost. He watched animals run to the dark water and bounce from the bank and sink out of sight, and the bog turned black by all the nights that came to it from all over and fell down dead. Okay. And the second one is called This Is My Heart. Look at the left ventricle, the doctor says, his finger pointing at the screen. Notice the darkness on the borders, how it moves slower than the right side as you pedal the bike. how it is no longer transparent, but surrounded by clouds that refuse to move, cling like wet feathers, even as the blood that once flowed the way streams, cleared of sticks and filled with traps designed by men with much harder hearts than yours flows. But now blood falls from your heart together in the shallow lungs. Feel how your breath lingers, not like a kiss, but like the shadow that will never end. It looks like a half moon, I say, and the doctor grimaces at my softness, the way I refuse to know my heart is being lured away by what was once my shadow foe, who turned me against me and made me complicit in creating the final gulf of emptiness. Your concern is fluids, the doctor says, the water you drink and the human water, that rejects the heart's same demands you so often rejected, now gathers inside you not like a mountain river, but like a slow creek, a dirty creek of long lost relevance, except to the water moccasins and frogs that fatten and sit, waiting on the bank. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That was great. The verisimilitude of those little tiny details make it so believable. The imagery, you're going to fit right in.
Thank you.
You are great. Thank you. So believable. Didn't it feel so authentic? You know, in his voice? It's just so good. So good. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right. So we're down to it. I think that's everybody. We are going to, just a reminder, next month, feel free to bring a friend. And it is Australia is the theme if it comes up. And definitely plug yourself on our Facebook page. If it can be any benefit to you, come back when I post this. All right. You can all unmute yourselves. I'm really, really happy that you all came today. What a good reading. Today was great, wasn't it?
It's wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Yes,
you.
very good. I always love these. I just wanted to say to James Bethel, Robert Louis Stevenson is very much revered in the Pacific in Hawaii. There is a street named for him downtown Honolulu, Tusitala, which is Samoan for storyteller. And that's what they called him. I just thought I'd make a note of that.
That's
great.
Yeah, I know Borges really loved Robert Louis Stevenson and talked about him quite a bit and mentioned him in some stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's just wonderful. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
Bye.
great month.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Wonderful.
Bye, Alexandra. Bye, Peter. Thanks for coming today.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you again, Sean. Thanks for Mary Gunn for calling in. Penny, good to see
Glenn,
you.
just before I go, Glenn, just before I go, could I say I was very interested in what you had to say there about the Carnegie libraries, because we have some of them here in Ireland as well.
Neat.
And there's certainly 2 libraries I visit, and they're Carnegie libraries. I don't know how many we have, but I'll go and look up their history now to see how we got them and how long we have them.
That's
thanks for
really,
that.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Well, I didn't know there were any in America, so we both learned something.
Yeah, they're all over the place. All right,
Okay.
bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you again. Bye.
See you, Linda.
See you, Mary.
Bye.
See you, Glenn. Bye-bye.
Bye, Patricia.